Jesus on the beach, Jesus on the shroud. Save the city streets, feed the hungry mouths. Ain't no Moses on the beach, Jesus on the shroud. Save the little people from the corporate culture crowd.
This is video. Would you care to tell me what do you hope today will accomplish?
Well, you know, it's a National Day of Occupation, so I think that the group here is part of an international crowd that's saying what's happening with corporations having so much control over the money, and the 1% having so much control is wrong. It's not good for the future of Michigan, it's not good for the future of the world, it's not good for my kids, so that's why I'm here.
I hope to get us all back to work.
Have you,
I've been unemployed for 3 years.
So, that's grim. What did you do before?
I was office manager.
Company downsized?
No, actually they merged and merged me out of a job. And being too close to 65, no one wants to hire someone my age, regardless of my skills. I went on countless interviews and would meet my competition coming out, and they were all much younger, so I kind of knew.
Work cheaper? Well,
that, and they knew that they'd be around longer than someone who was close to 65. So now I had to take my Social Security early, 2 years early, and I'm living on that.
Trying to get by.
Yep. So,
terrible.
Yeah, it's been very, very difficult. I no longer have transportation, can't afford car insurance, even if I could find a car, because I'm uninsured, medically uninsured. So, looking forward to January when I turn 65.
Medicare?
Yes. So,
let's hope that lasts.
I know.
That America's kind of fallen asleep. Every 30 to 50 years, it seems like we've got to stand back up and tell the politicians and the big money, you're working for us, not the other way around. And that's certainly what's happened. We've fallen asleep, and it's getting crazy. And it's time to start a discussion on how to fix it. And that's what the Occupy movement is. It's a big discussion, everybody included, how to fix the problem.
We're at a moment, a tipping point, where we're seeing something emerge. A social movement is being born, and that is just very, very exciting. I'm so glad to be here and to be a part of it and to support the 99%. I think it is going to be a long struggle. I think it's going to build momentum. And I know that there's a lot of criticism now about things maybe being chaotic and not being as organized, but that's how often social movements begin. And that's perfectly, that's perfectly fine. It's something organic, it's something that's emerging, it's something that's going to grow and develop, and that's part of the beauty and the dynamic of it. So I'm not worried that it's a little unorganized or a little chaotic. Leadership is emerging, organization is emerging, the message is emerging, and in time, I think it's going to be a tipping point in America. I don't think people around the country realize how desperate Michigan is and what a difficult time we've been in, not just the last 2 or 3 years since the so-called Great Recession, but over the last decade. The ground is deeper here than in most other places, so I think it's a fertile place for the seeds of a reemergence of democracy can be seen.
I hope that today people will come together, that this will be a starting point for people to come together and stand up for what's right, and stand up against the corporations, stand up for fair, shared sacrifice. I'm hoping that this will be the beginning of a groundswell here in Lansing, where people will continue to come out and occupy wherever they find a space here and speak up. This reminds me of the 60s. I'm a child of the 60s. products of the 60s, and it feels like the 60s all over again, and it feels good. It's about time. We should have been stood up, but better late than never.
Amen. Right.
Better late than never.
I'm worried about a lot of bills fast-tracking their way through this.
That's my concern too.
A lot of what?
A lot of bills are fast-tracking their way through here.
That's right.
They rush it through without even dealing with it. They look through, so they just, it's frightening to me.
It is. It's a scary time. It's a really scary time.
It is.
But this is the time, if you ever was a time to speak up, it's now.
You better do it now.
If you're going to speak up, you better do it now. You might not have another chance.
I know.
That's right.
That's the sense I'm getting. And it's a pretty good start.
I think so too. I think so too. I'm very proud.
I'd like to see the 100,000 at the tailgate.
Well, that's the problem. See, you're at the ball game right now. That's the problem.
I see the U of M hat, so I'm surprised you're not down there.
Well, I'm waiting 12 o'clock.
And I'm a Michigan State.
Well, so this is a mixed marriage.
Exactly.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. For a long time.
Thank you.
Well, I have
in politics.
money in politics.
Too much our politicians are bought, you know, and they've got their special interests to deal with. And
No one's really working for us anymore.
Yeah.
Are you worried about school debt? Are you worried?
Insanely.
Yeah.
I'm in school still, and I've been in school and have to keep changing my major because there's no work. I was a photography major, and there was no work for me, and now changed my major and accruing more debt to keep trying.
What are you doing now?
I'm culinary arts. I got a better shot.
Better shot, but I hear that field's filling up fast too.
Yep.
God, and it's too bad that you have to fight everybody to try to get your shot.
Yep.
I mean, that's the harsh reality
Not
nowadays.
enough jobs.
My frustrations are, you know, we're using like 1 1/4 of the Earth's carrying capacity. We're down to 10% of the natural resources, and all the politicians and all the political parties are all not doing anything about that problem. And whether they're telling us that they are or not, you know, in the end they don't, and that's why we're in this situation now. So I think this is a good first step for America, you know. The rest of the world followed this all the way through in some cases and changed their government, but at least we can start here. You know, our culture wasn't even willing to get together and talk about stuff even a few years ago, so.
I feel a change.
Me too. I think this, yeah, plus so many people are hurting now. It's, you know, they have nothing to lose by doing this.
Jobs. And with corporate greed, we're just fed up with it, and the banks and everything. Everybody's out of work. We want the taxation to be fair, you know. Let's tax that upper class just like they do us.
Yeah, I want my neighborhood to get the money that it deserves, to have the services that it deserves, to feel safe like it should. And that's why I'm here.
I hate to say this, but all I can think of is Madame Defarge in the in the French Revolution. You're not knitting in names, are you?
The emergency manager law takes sovereignty of localities out of the hands of the people who actually voted for their own elected representatives and gives it to a Republican-controlled state government. And because it is being disproportionately applied to cities and localities prominently of poor and African American residents.
And good democratic cities. And if a manager comes in, he gets rid of your elected commissioners. Now, we may get mad at him, but then it's our choice to vote him out or recall. We lose that. There are no commission meetings, which means there's no agenda listed where you can go find out what's going on. He can do what he wants and then inform you. He can sell public assets. If he came into my city, Bay City, he could sell our Vets Park, where they do the fireworks every year. He could sell that and put in condos and not have to tell anybody until the day the bulldozers show up. Fire, police, and firemen, void contracts, and it says right on here, he can refuse to negotiate with employee representatives. And he can completely dissolve a city, township, or county. One person has all that control. And it seems like the governor is setting them up because, do a little graphic here, there's this much money for revenue sharing. He's not giving all that out. He's telling communities, I'll give you this much if you consolidate, like 2 townships go together with their volunteer fire department. If you consolidate, I'll give you this much. If you don't, you only get this much. There's more money out there than he is putting out. And that's why we're here.
Yeah. In other words, the emergency manager program is a way to overstep democratic process and the management of resources and the management of political decision making at the level of localities.
They can privatize anything. I think it was Benton Harbor or Pontiac just had their water supply plants, the whole water system, sold to a Swedish company. It's been privatized. There's just so much going on that people they're fed up. And the scary part is there has been an emergency manager law since the 70s. Sometimes you need somebody to step in if they're inept or corrupt. But this negates that and gives all the power to one man. The other law, if I'm got this right, if the emergency manager comes in, he has to work with the elected officials. He doesn't just have say like he's a dictator.
I think the most important thing is to just have these kinds of local demonstrations which will really feed upon each other and will create a kind of cumulative wave, and then others will get involved. And what I hope the protesters realize is that they are not alone, and that there's a whole history of protest that started very much like this. And it's not important to have leaders, it's just important for people to express themselves, and they will in their own way begin to dredge out from themselves those things that are most important to them.
You've seen a lot of these over the years.
I've seen a great many. I've participated. I was counting on the way over. I've been at this actively for 63 years. Beginning with the Henry Wallace campaign in '48 and picketing on Boston Common in the 50s against nuclear testing and nuclear and these fallout shelters that were so absurd. And at the same time, and this is why this is so beautiful, other streams start to come into this, so that while we were working in a kind of inchoate anti-war movement and anti-militarism kind of thing, civil rights was also growing, and many of the people in one were certainly involved in the other. And the regrettable thing is that a lot of these things never quite came together, and should have, because there is such a commonality of grievance involved. And that grievance goes to the structure of government, it goes to the way the capitalist system is operating in our society. And this, I'm looking at the signs, we just arrived. The signs aren't quite as biting as some that we've seen on looking at the New York Times coverage and LA Times and so on. But it's a great start. It's a wonderful start. And I just hope it can continue.
We're all here for the same one reason. We're all here for the same one reason.
Moses on the beach,
And we're all here for our own reason.
city streets, feed the hungry mouths.
I believe that we should occupy.
I
believe that we should occupy.
Save the little
This
people
building.
This
building. These steps.
These steps.
And this property.
And this property.
Until the time comes.
Until the time comes.
When the people see fit.
When the people see fit.